All right, real quick video on the basics of Maschine. I have a brand new project open. This is Maschine 2.2. First thing to look at, up at the very top, it says beats per minute right here. I'm going to change this to 124 because 120 is a little bit too slow. Next thing, let's look at the very top left. You have library and files. Library is all the things that come with when you buy a Maschine. There are things like kits, which I'm on right now, projects that are done for you. I don't really mess with that because I make my own. I don't work with what's already been done and included. I've never been a big fan of that, but that's just me. These are all the different sounds. You've got drum sounds, instruments, and when you click on instruments, you've got, say, bass. Under bass, there's sub bass. These are all the sounds that you have. These are sample files. Over here, these are instruments that come with Maschine. Now I happen to have the complete 9 installed, so I forget what the stock library looks like. Maybe there's some instruments that come with it. Effects, samples again, and then anything as a user that I've put in. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is load up a drum kit. I'm on Group A, and I'm doing all this from the software, so this is not going to be a hardware tutorial. This is all just from the Maschine software. I'm going to go to Groups, and from the Maschine library, I'm going to load up the 909 kit. Now what I've done is I've put the 909 kit on Group A. Group A has 16 tracks, if you will, from kicks to snares to hi-hats, open and closed. It's all laid out for you right here. Now, look very down at the bottom. You've got this velocity, and underneath that, you've got this grid. What I like to do is keep the grid on and on 16th notes. Quarter notes makes everything too short or too long. I don't want my beats to be in quarter notes because the duration of the note is too long. So 16th tends to work good for most. I'll just draw and double click right here. And now I've got a 4 on the floor pattern of a kick drum. And I'll do this. And I'll put in my claps. And now I've got your standard, you've got the standard beat right there. Now what I've done is it's automatically created pattern 1 and scene 1. What I would want to do is make this an 8-bar loop. From the hardware I know how to do it, but I'm going to do Command C, Command V. I'm going to copy and paste everything. Do that again. I'm going to go down here, make this a little smaller. I'm going to turn this 2-bar loop into a 4-bar loop by doing another copy and paste. And now I'll turn this 4-bar loop into a 8-bar loop by doing a copy paste. If you're on the hardware, there's a way to duplicate or double the length of your pattern, but I've done it in the software here, and you'll have to figure out how you do that on the hardware, whether you've got Maschine Studio, the Maschine regular controller, or the micro. So maybe this pattern I want to call it intro. In this scene, I can double click and rename this, and this would be the first part of my song. Now, what I may want to do is, the thing that's a pain in the ass about Maschine is that it doesn't operate the way your standard DAW, digital audio workstation, does. This forces you to use patterns and scenes. So I can make this another scene, and I can put in the intro pattern again. But if I change this pattern and I do something here, because it's the same pattern, it's going to affect these first 8 bars. Now I don't want that. So I'm going to go to my patterns here. I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to control click and I'm going to hit duplicate. So now I can add something to this pattern without it affecting the first one. And I just added that other kick in. So down on the bottom you've got all your velocities for your notes. Obviously this is very, very stiff. It all has the same velocity. But this is the basics of Maschine and how you can start arranging. If you're doing a house track that's anywhere between 6 to 8 minutes, your song is probably going to be around the 200 bar range. So you'll have, if you're working in 8 bar loops, you know, you're going to have a whole lot of these scenes. But what a lot of people do is they make a pretty hot 8 bar loop and then they will copy and paste that whole thing and then subtract elements out of it, which we'll do maybe in another video. But for right now, this is just all about the basics. I've got my beat. Let's say I want to add a bass. I can go to instruments here, or let's just take samples. Sub. This one I like. Or I'll tell you what, I want to make this more musical. I'll go to my files, my own sample library. This is a sample pack that I just bought that has 90s house chords. This here I'm going to make an instrument. I'll make it a organ. So I have this organ. Now I'm going to pull a MIDI file onto this. This is a MIDI sample library. These are all notes. These are not audio files. There you have it. Now if you notice, the MIDI file is a 4-bar pattern, but it'll loop itself because the drum pattern is 8 bars. So your scene is going to be as long as the longest pattern in it. So if your scene comprises a couple different patterns and one of those is 8 bars, your scene will be 8 bars long. If one of those patterns is 16, it'll be 16. So that wraps up this tutorial. This hopefully will get you started on creating a basic beat. You could add another group here and call this your bass, another one and have this your effects, and intersperse wishes and crashes and fills, however you may want to group that. And we haven't even covered yet effects and so forth, and importing and exporting and all the cool stuff you could do, but this will get you going to making a basic beat, and that is that.